Hey, what's up everybody, and welcome back to my channel, Movie Files. Elliot here today to give you all my thoughts, my review, and have a discussion with you all about this second episode of HBO's White Lotus. We're talking episode 2, which was titled New Day, and I said it last week in my first review. Hey, if you guys want to have a discussion about this interesting show, well, let's do it, and you guys responded well to that first review, and here we are, breaking it all down with episode 2, and I'm excited to be here. But before we do so, make sure you all are checking me out on all my other social media accounts. If you all are new to the channel, well, welcome to the community. Consider subscribing, and while you're at it, make sure you hit that notification bell. That way you can get the alert for when I drop new content. If you all enjoyed this review of episode 2 of White Lotus, well, make sure to like the video, share the video. It helps out the channel a lot, but I also appreciate the support. And again, I did that first review and asked a call to action. If you guys want to discuss this on a weekly basis, well, let me know by interacting with the video, and you guys did that, and here we are discussing it. So let's continue the conversation in the comments below. What'd you think about this second episode? How are you liking the mixture of the conversations being had, the drama, the comedy, the dry comedy, the characteristics so far? Who's your favorite character? Let's discuss it all in the comments below. So, of course, this isn't, a show that is leaving you on the edge of your seat, like, oh, what's going to happen next? But I really enjoy the pacing that the show has, the comedy beats. I feel more natural to the situation and not like over-the-top comedy. I'm enjoying seeing these privileged people and seeing their drama, what they consider drama in their lives. And I'm just liking where the show is headed. And just the conversation in this episode that we'll talk about, I'm really enjoying. But I'm having a good time with this show. And I knew I was going to probably enjoy it, but I didn't know I was going to enjoy it this much. So I really enjoyed the second episode. We're going to break it down, recap it. But let me know in the comments, what are you all thinking about this show so far? Again, your pros, your cons, if you have a favorite character so far, who are you rooting for? And again, if we are going to talk maybe some mystery, who is in that box from episode 1? Again, full spoilers ahead, but let's get into this discussion, this recap. As again, this episode is titled New Day, and we're seeing a new day for a lot of characters, right? We see that with Mark, we see that with Tanya, and we're seeing a new kind of situation that Rachel may play into as being the trophy wife. So it was a really good episode, but starting off the episode, we see Olivia and her friend Paula getting high. It's so interesting to see this younger, I think they're probably in their early 20s. They're on this beautiful resort and they're on this beautiful vacation, but yet they can't seem to find happiness and just like going to the beach, enjoying some food, having a good dance. They're just like bored with their lives, which kind of speaks to the society of certain generations just kind of being the attention span, right? And not appreciating what's in front of you. So I kind of really enjoy this kind of situation that we have with Paula and with Olivia, but it's in this moment that Mark is given the good news. He doesn't have ball cancer, which is definitely something that got him really excited, and he has this new chapter, this new day of sorts with his character, which we'll talk a little bit about later. But let's talk about Olivia and Paula for a second, which I didn't want to talk about in my review last week because it was spoiler free, but are we thinking that Olivia is romantically interested in Paula, or is it just a situation where she comes for money and she almost has this type of persona, have this type of idea that she kind of, I don't want to say owns Paula, but she has this kind of greediness and kind of this selfishness that she doesn't want to share her with this boy that's interested in her and things of that nature. Let me know where you all are sitting on the fence. Is it romantically that Olivia is into Paula? And I don't think that's reciprocated if it is that route. Or do you think it is more lines of she comes for money, she feels like she has this type of ownership towards Paula? Let me know you guys' thoughts in the comments. It could just be a simple matter of jealousy as well. It doesn't even have to be those two options I just mentioned. It could just be she's jealous that Paul is getting attention from this guy and she's not getting the attention. So let me know you all's thoughts on that. But we have more discussions about those two characters. But what I really enjoyed about this opening sequence is just seeing our characters waking up. Again, they're all privileged. They all have the opportunities of having their own businesses and things of that nature, but it's just interesting to see them kind of waking up. Lucky Shane there waking up to Rachel, but I love in this moment seeing Armond, who I would have to say so far he's my favorite character. He's really bringing the comedic chops and just seeing him manage this resort. But he is still in shock with the young lady that had the baby last week. And in the midst of all that, you can kind of see that Armond, the pressures of being a manager is really weighing on him. And we'll have that discussion about, I've been in that position, never a resort manager, but I've been in a position of management, and it's just like it does weigh on you, and all the things you do, the customer service, the customer's always right. That's why he's my favorite character, because I can really relate to making the customer happy, which we'll talk about that scene here in a second. But going back to the Mossbacher family as they're waking up, and the morning routine is just, it's the comedy beats that's really working for me, as well as the conversations, but seeing just the day-to-day lives of, you know, waking up to your family and just seeing how Quinn is butt-ass naked in the closet and the mom's still trying to get him in the main room. We see our man Mark, again, happy as hell that he doesn't have ball cancer and talking to his daughters. And again, we expect this from Paula and Olivia. They always kind of find a way to kind of poke fun of the situation or make you kind of feel bad about something that you're happy about as they're talking about his balls inflating and deflating. It was just, again, the comedy beats is really working for me in this show. But let's talk about, I mentioned Armand's my favorite character, but the most interesting couple so far, the family that's really interesting to me, is definitely the Mossbacher and the Patton family. But Rachel gets offered this piece, which doesn't pay that much money, to cover a YouTube influencer, and Shane's just sitting there looking like, that sounds like a waste of time, sounds stupid. And then let's have this conversation as he talks about her situation, her financial situation has changed now that she's married into money. And that is a conversation I want to have with you all in regards to the reality of the situation at hand and how you all feel about this. I've never been married, so to my male audience, to my female audience that are married, and if you were in that position where either you were making more money than your husband or your husband was making more money than you, and when you guys combined your income, and again, you don't have to get too in detail, but let's have the discussion. How did you all handle that? Do you feel in the position as Shane and the tradition of the man making money and supporting the family, and the wife can be the stay-at-home wife, or in this case, a trophy wife? Or do you feel the polar opposite, and where I feel, you know, to put my stakes in it, you know, the independence of women not losing their identity, losing who they were before they got married, right? So again, let me know how you all feel about that conversation, the trophy wife versus still having your independence, as we see with Nicole's character in the show. And let's just have it. Again, there's no right or wrong answers, but I'm just curious of how you all feel about that conversation. This is the conversation that the show kind of brings to the table. But speaking of Shane, he's back at it again. He's hounding Armond about the whole room situation. This is why Armand's my favorite character, because I've been in this position where it's just like the customer is always right? And I love the swerve that Armond gives him, where she's like, listen, it was probably a mistake, but I'm going to do my best to make the situation better. And you just see Shane just being, he's still not satisfied with that resort. And that just speaks to the Shane character. He's never happy. He always feels like he's right? He always feels like he's owed that room, where anyone else in that situation, you have a poolside, you have your beautiful wife, you have this great room, you come from money, but yet he always has to kind of find the nitty gritty and make things bigger than what they are. So again, this Shane character, he's the a-hole of the show, and I'm really enjoying the way that the actor is portraying the asshole of the show. And again, the swerve that Armond gives him is classic, because I've been in that position where it's just like, listen, I know that you're upset about the situation, but hey, I'm going to work some magic. I'm going to do this, that, and the other to make things better. It's just like, I don't miss those days of being in management. And then for those that are still working in management or working 9-to-5s, or, you know, have people that give them the orders, trust me, I know where you're at, and it can be very frustrating. But let's go back to Shane, as leave it to him. He finds a German couple. He finds out that Armond was lying, and he calls his mom, and the mom gets the travel agent involved, which we'll talk about. But again, we see, let's go back to Rachel. She sees Nicole, and this is another interesting conversation, and actually kind of funny. It starts off as a conversation that Rachel is having with Nicole about, okay, what is it like to marry into money, and her situation at hand, and how Nicole, being the breadwinner of her family, and the economy in that conversation was really, really interesting. And it was a really fascinating conversation that unfortunately kind of turned for the bad, because Nicole finds out what Rachel does for a living. She found out that she wrote a piece about her, that she took it as a situation where the piece made it seem that Nicole was riding the Me Too movement to get to the position of power, which is obviously a conversation that is being had in today's society in regards to how, the doors have kind of opened in regards to women being in more position of power, people of color being in more position of power, and some people feel like some people take advantage of, whether it be a Black Lives Matter movement, the Me Too movement. So again, it's this conversation that the show, it's not a political show, but it is rooted in reality in regards to the conversations that, I have with my friends and my family, and it is really interesting. So let me know, how do you all feel about that conversation? Was Rachel wrong to feel kind of offended that she read the piece wrong? Or do you feel more in line of Nicole, like how you wrote that and how it could be a miscommunication in the conversation being had in this situation? I'm not a woman, but there are many occasions where women take down women, and being a black man, black men, black women, people of color taking down other people of color. So it is a really interesting conversation being had, but in particular with Nicole, how she views that piece and how Rachel viewed the piece that she was writing as being more uplifting, where Nicole feels like it was taking her down. So again, I love how this show kind of throws that into the mix with all the different things going on here. So I thought it was funny seeing these two characters, Paula and Olivia, on the beach doing coke, and they come across Tanya, who is just kind of killing their high and interrupting their high, talking about what she's going to do with her mom. They don't want to hear that. They want to enjoy their high, so they accidentally run off the beach, but they forget their bag, which we'll talk about in a second. And we'll talk about Tanya and the conversation she has with Belinda. But going back to Armond, who hears it from the travel agent, and he has the bag in hand, and I just knew that he's going to take advantage of those prescription drugs, the coke, the weed, which he does at the end of this episode. And I think that might relieve him of his stress of his day-to-day job. But let's go to dinner time, as we have a moment where Nicole is like, hey, that woman over there, speaking of Rachel, talking to her daughter Olivia, she's like, she's a fan of mine. And Olivia and Paula, they really know how to dig at their characters and dig at the other characters in the show. She's like, a fan of who? And again, she's not impressed with her mom. And there's another conversation, again, women taking down women or not being like appreciative of someone having a higher stature in a male-dominated field. And she doesn't really see her mom in that light. She just sees her mom as her mom and not really admiring the hustle, the grind, or whatever it took for her to get to the position of power. So again, another good conversation being had. But I like it here where we see Rachel breaks the news to Shane regarding that she wants to take the job. But then Shane, being kind of misogynistic, comes in and says, he just says, no, you're not going to do the job. And then we even see Armond coming in with the wine and thinking that he's won this round and that he's, the man of power. Like, I just told my wife, no, I just got a free bottle of champagne. But, he still, it's not enough for him. As we kind of move forward, as Olivia is talking to Armond about the bag, she notices that Paula is talking to that busboy. Again, is it romance? Is it jealousy? Is it she just wants her friend's attention and no one's else? Let me know your thoughts on that. But we do see Armond does take the bag for himself to take those drugs. But I don't want to leave out two of our other main characters, and that is Tanya and Belinda. They have, again, they're my least interesting characters in the show, but they do have an interesting conversation, interesting spin on the situation, where Belinda talks about how most of her clients are privileged, are white, and they're rich. And we see this conversation kind of transform into, well, have you ever thought about making your own business? And she's like, oh, yeah, but, this, that, and the other, it's expensive. And we see her offer her money to open up a business, which, again, what's the situation there? Does she feel bad for her? Is this, again, feeling like, I'm going to help this person that needs money. I'm going to help this masseuse who changed my life. Is it something rooted in positivity? Is it something rooted in her own self-interest? Let me know where you all think that particular friendship's going to head. But wrapping up the episode, again, Mark has his newfound life. He doesn't have ball cancer. He's talking to his family. He wants to do scuba sessions with Quinn. He has his speech at the dinner table about looking at life differently. And we end the episode with Mark getting a call from his uncle, because we know that he had the cancer scare. And he finds out that his dad didn't die from cancer, but instead his dad had two lives. One that Mark was aware of being the family man, but two was that he was a gay man and that he died of AIDS. So Shocker for Mark, for Nicole who's in the room, and that just puts a whole new perspective on his life, right? And it's just going to be interesting to see Mark having this high all episode, and now his world's kind of crumbling down, because I would imagine the way that Mark speaks about his dad, he really looked up to his dad. And again, he thought his dad died of cancer, but he didn't die of that. And he also found out his dad had another life. That'll be really interesting to see how that plays out in the coming weeks. And we finished the episode with Armond taking the drugs. And I don't think he's going to get hooked on drugs, but I think he's going to start using those drugs more and more as he's getting more stressed at work. And we see Quinn looking at a well on the beach. So another interesting episode. A lot of good conversations again about let's talk about the two families that are at beef right now, because Rachel and Nicole are at odds, and we have the Mossbacher versus the Patton family, and we have the conversation about a trophy wife versus a wife who is the breadwinner in the family. We have the conversation about what's Tanya and Belinda's situation. Is it she's trying to be helpful, to be more positive, or is it again self-interest? The situation at hand between Paula and Olivia, is it romance? Is it jealousy? Is it kind of feeling some type of ownership over Paula? And what can we expect about who's in the box? Who is the person that is died or murdered, or, however they ended up in that box? Who do you think is the character that will be revealed to be the dead character? Let me know your thoughts in the comments. Again, I really enjoy this show. I'm really enjoying the conversations that this show has to offer, and I want to continue the conversation with you all in the comments. So if you haven't already, thank you first and foremost for sticking around and watching this video in its entirety. Make sure to like the video, share the video, leave your thoughts in the comments below, subscribe to the channel, of course hit the notification bell, that way you don't miss any more other content. Hope you all are staying safe, hope you enjoyed this review, and we'll see you on episode 3 next week. Take care, everybody.